Hey guys, this is Salty. Today I'll be going through each of the tank specializations and ranking them according to how difficult they are to play in the War Within. Okay, let's kick things off straight away with the Guardian Druid. Centers around maintaining stacks of the Iron Fur ability, Guardian Druid is an extremely strong tank that manages damage intake with strong passive reductions, a large health pool, and increased healing from Mastery. Has excellent utility via Rebirth, Stampeding Roar, and Mark of the Wild. Strong defensive cooldowns in the form of Bark Skin, Survival Instincts, Rage of the Sleeper, and Incarnation. Has a simple and intuitive rotation for both single target and AoE, the easiest of any tank in fact. Has a very small number of abilities to press, making Guardian Druid extremely beginner friendly. This simplicity makes it a lot easier to focus on incoming damage and on abilities that need to be interrupted. There's not much more to say, guys. Guardian Druid is still the easiest tank to pick up in the War Within, and I would highly recommend them for newer players. Going to pop Guardian straight into the S tier, extremely easy. Okay, let's take a look at Blood Death Knight. Blood DK's tanking centers around reactive self-healing via Blood Strike, which heals you for a percentage of the damage you have recently taken. Blood DKs have a predictable and simple rotation, excellent utility, and a strong selection of defensive cooldowns such as Anti-Magic Shell, Icebound Fortitude, Lichborn, and Vampiric Blood. However, they do have two resources that you need to track: runes and runic power. Factoring in cooldowns, there are quite a lot of abilities that you need to be pressing regularly. Cooldowns are damage specific, meaning you need to have a good understanding of what type of damage you are taking at any given time. There is quite a bit more to be constantly aware of, more abilities to be using, and Blood DKs can be quite punishing if you do not know what you are doing. Having said that, the rotations are straightforward and intuitive, and once you understand how your self-healing works, you will be fine. In terms of overall difficulty, I am going to place Blood DK into the B tier. In lower level content, they are really easy to play. In higher level content, they can become more complicated. Okay, let's do Protection Warrior next. In simple terms, Protection Warrior tanks by keeping up shield block and ignore pain, which is not damage specific, but rather reduces all incoming damage by 50%. Has excellent mobility thanks to Charge, Intervene, and Heroic Leap. Decent raid and dungeon utility with Rallying Cry, Battle Shout, Shockwave, Spell Reflection, and Intimidating Shout. Can be less forgiving than other tank specializations if you make a mistake or run out of rage. Crot Warrior also has weaker self-sustain than other tanks, but as long as you are remembering to keep up shield block and using Ignore Pain when you have excess rage, then you should be fine. Not quite as easy as Guardian Druid, but still an excellent choice for new players or players new to tanking. I'm going to place Protection Warrior into the A tier. Okay, now let's look at the Brewmaster Monk. Their tanking style centers around the passive Stagger ability, which deals a portion of your damage taken over time instead of instantly, depending on the amount of agility you have. This effect is further enhanced by Shuffle, which you will passively apply by using your other abilities, and Ox Stance. Has excellent mobility thanks to Roll, Tiger's Lust, and Transcendence. Good utility with access to reliable AoE taunt. Does have the lowest health pool of any tanking specialization and has a high number of abilities that need to be used, even with the most passive talent choices, making Brewmaster not particularly beginner friendly. Has low self-sustain outside of Expel Harm and Celestial Fortitude, as well as unintuitive playstyle. Brewmaster can be extremely punishing if mistakes are made. I had to think about this a bit, but I think that the Brewmaster Monk is probably the hardest tank specialization to play in the War Within, especially for new players. I'm going to go ahead, say that Brewmaster is the hardest, and place it into the D tier. Very difficult. Okay, and we are on to Protection Paladin. This one centers around generating holy power and maintaining Shield of the Righteous and making sure you're always standing in your consecration. Super easy rotation with very few abilities to worry about, making Prot Paladin extremely beginner friendly. Some of the best defensive cooldowns in the game, including Ardent Defender, Guardian of the Ancient Kings, Eye of Ty, Sentinel, and Divine Shield. You will always have something to press in those "oh god, here comes a stack of damage" moments. Has limited mobility, however, outside of Divine Steed. Moving outside of consecration and when Shield of Righteousness is on cooldown can leave Prot Paladins extremely vulnerable, but if you can get a handle on those two, then you should be sweet. Super easy to play, very beginner friendly, not as easy as Guardian Druid, but definitely going into the A tier. And finally, let's take a look at Vengeance Demon Hunter. Centers around maintaining a high uptime of your Demon Spikes ability for a massive boost to armor, as well as entering your demon form via either a Metamorphosis or in shorter bursts Fell Devastation via the Demonic Talent. One of the highest mobility specializations in the game, making them an excellent choice for tanking Mythic Plus keys. They have a reasonably easy and intuitive rotation for both single target and AoE without excessive button bloat. They have excellent sustain with self-healing and leech, although making mistakes and losing Demon Spike uptime can be extremely punishing. Metamorphosis is on a very long 3-minute cooldown, so you will need to have a very good knowledge of the keys you are running in Mythic Plus to make sure you are utilizing it at the right time. Knowing when to use Fel Devastation poses a similar problem. You don't want to be sitting on it for long periods, as that will result in poor damage, but at the same time, you want to make sure it's available when you're expected to take higher than normal damage, especially when Metamorphosis is on cooldown. Balancing this and given the greater requirement for dungeon knowledge makes Demon Hunter not particularly beginner friendly, and it is not a tank that I would recommend for newer players. Certainly not as tricky to pick up as Brewmaster, but not nearly as easy as Prot Paladin and Prot Warrior. I am tentatively placing Demon Hunter into the B tier with Blood DK, but I could certainly entertain arguments for placing it into C. And that's about it, guys. I hope this video has provided you with some clarity around how each tank works and how difficult they will be to pick up in the War Within. Please feel free to let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, I'm Salty, and I will catch you next time. Cheers.